All right, welcome back, everyone. So we're fresh off the Alberta Provincials in Red Deer. How did me and Irene do in our mixed? How did we do in our singles? And how did we do in our doubles? There's a little bit of rain, a little bit of sunshine the whole week, so let's get right into it. Episode 12, Pickleball Diaries. Let's go.
Oh, what a shot.
Hey everybody, we're here in Red Deer for day one of the Alberta Provincials. We had a bit of a rain delay, so we're starting a couple hours late, so the games are getting switched up for the single matches, just one game to 15. Me and Irene are going to go check in, and then we'll see how we do. Let's go.
Nice. Very nice. Very good. Very good.
All right, so we just had a huge storm pass through Red Deer here, so they're suspending play for the rest of the day. So they're going to move men's singles over with women's doubles tomorrow. So Irene and Maya will play then, and then Irene's singles are going to get moved to Sunday when I'm playing men's doubles. So right now I have 1-2. I got another game, and if I win that game, I'll be in the semis. So we'll check back in tomorrow morning and see how it goes.
Versus Leonard Vandersea on court 4, Dr. Wimp, the referee. Oh, sorry, Gary and Greg, 18. I can't read.
All right, so I fell just short of getting to the podium in men's singles, lost in the one that would have got me into the bronze medal game, but it was a great match. Really great pool of guys in that 3.0 division. So Irene and Maya are in the finals for the women 4.0, so we're going to go watch that one right now. Stay tuned.
Please make your way to court 3 with referee Jay and referee Marie.
Good shot, eyes. There you go. All right, we're on day 3. Mixed doubles. Say me and Irene have won our first 2 games, so we're in the quarterfinals, just waiting for our next cue. I'm going to go watch her partner, Mai, play with her partner. They're playing in the 4.0, and we'll see how we do. Stay tuned.
And Fu. Court 9.
All right, everybody. So me and Irene have made it onto the finals, and we're from the A side, so we're going to be twice to beat. So what that means is if the other team beats us in the best 2 out of 3, then we play a game to 15. So we kind of got a mulligan. Both teams playing in the bronze right now. We've played before. We just beat the one team to get to the finals. So we'll go scout that out, and we'll see you at the other side.
We've got a match, mixed doubles, skill 3.5, match 50 to 55. Coming up on court 16 with referee Roger Carrier. This is mixed doubles.
All right, hey everybody, we're on the final day here. Me and Richard are already done. We played really early this morning, and I didn't get a chance to do a pre-day film, but we played not too bad. We lost in 3 sets in our first game. Tight game. Probably could have pulled it out, but just wasn't our day for that one. And then the second set, or the second game on the B side, fell 15-6. Tried to slow the game down. The other team was really good at driving the ball and speeding the pace up. We just couldn't really manage it. So we're just heading to the courts now. Irene's about to start her singles to finish off for the weekend, and then we'll be heading out, and then update you in a couple days.
There you go. Good job. Let's go.
All right, so day 1 and 2 recap, seeing how we had the massive rain and storm delay on day 1. So day 1 was supposed to be just singles, just men's and women's singles, and that was it. Also, some junior stuff was in there as well. We actually had a junior division in both singles and doubles this year, but those got pushed over as well. So I got 2 games in on day one. Won both of those. My second match was a really tight match. I ended up winning 16-14 against the eventual silver medalist winner. After the storm had passed, the day actually got really, really nice, but because of the stops and starts and also the heavy winds kind of trashing the registration area a little bit, they had to reset everything up. They just decided to postpone the entire day, and it was funny because after like 5 o'clock, everyone was back on the courts just playing rec games, basically. So I would have loved to keep playing because, keep that momentum going because each day is different. I found for myself when I played singles the following day, one, I had to wait around a little bit because it didn't start until later in the afternoon. And I couldn't really get the same momentum going. I ended up playing the one kid right off the hop. And this was in the quarterfinals. So if I would have won this match, I would have guaranteed myself a medal. Lost that one. I want to say it was like 15-7, 15-9. This guy was really, really good. I was keeping pace really, really well. Like I didn't get super far down, but yeah, just couldn't. The shots weren't quite there for me. The wind was a factor that day. Well, the wind was pretty much a factor the entire weekend, but this day I found for me I wasn't using the wind to my advantage as much, and just couldn't get the same shots to fall as I had falling the other day. I just couldn't keep that momentum going. It was like starting fresh all over again. And because of the postponements, instead of there being on the A side best 2 out of 3 series of games to 11, everything was just 1 game to 15. So the problem with one single games to 15 in a bracket format, especially even on the A side, is that once you get down or if somebody gets rolling, it's really hard to pull that momentum back. Like if you lose the first set in a best 2 out of 3, it's a brand new set. You can start off and get momentum going. And I'll get into that a little bit more when I talk about me and Irene's doubles in a minute here. But yeah, so couldn't really get it going in that first match. So I lost that, which dropped me to the B side. And then because of the postponement, there were some people who couldn't get back for the men's division. So my next match, actually, I won by default because that gentleman had to work that day, so he wasn't there. Pretty confident myself that I still probably would have won that match, but then I moved on, and then the next match was a match to get into the bronze medal game. So, and the person I played ended up going on and winning the silver. So I lost the match. At one point, I was down 13-2, and I managed to pull myself back up into 9, so I lost 15-9. This was the gentleman I had beaten the previous day in a 16-14 match, and yeah, same thing. Just couldn't get the same shots to fall that I had falling the other day. I was probably, if I'm gonna do a percentage, probably day one, I was probably hitting like 90% of the shots I was taking, like putting them where I wanted to put them with the proper speed and stuff. And on day 2 there, I was probably sitting more around 70%. And this bracket for the men's singles and 3.0, at least for the top 4 or 5 of us there, was really, really tight and really, really competitive. So you could not afford to have kind of like an off day like that, even like a 70% day. So lost that match. So I finished the tournament in 4th. So proud that I finished like that high up, but I would have liked to get on the podium. So a little bit disappointed with that, but the people I lost to were medalists. So like my first loss was to the eventual bronze medalist. My second loss was to the eventual silver medalist. And both very, very good players. And of course, the person who won, very, very good player as well. So not much more to talk about with that. Singles for me is always the bonus thing. When we go to tournaments, I like doing singles as a challenge to myself because at that point you're not depending on anybody. It's just you to rely on. So some people prefer that. I do like working in a team atmosphere, but this is one of the few times that I compete in something where it's just me competing. Moving on to also on day 2 was the women's doubles. So Irene and I playing together again in women's 4.0. Looking at the bracket right off the hop, I was a little confused because when I was looking at the teams, all the other teams in there, with the exception of one, Irene and I have beaten in some form or another, whether it was that particular team or those women on a different team with another female partner. So, because I was looking at, and the way I had the teams kind of ranked in my head was actually the way the tournament basically ended. But for some reason, they stuck Irene and Mai in the very first match versus Caitlin and Lauren, who, in my opinion, was probably the top ranked team there before the matches even started. I knew that would be their toughest opponent by far. So right off the hop, they got to play one of the best teams there. And this team is actually trying to push themselves into the 4-5 category. So they're sitting at, like, if you were to give them a ranking as a team and they weren't in the 4-5, they're probably sitting at like a 4.45 or something like that, right? So whereas Irene and Mai, they've won a few 4.0 tournaments now, but they'd be still sitting around the 4.25, 4.3 type of thing if you want to use the point rating like you can look at on Pickleball brackets. So yeah, for me to pin the top two teams against each other right off the hop doesn't really make sense if you look at how brackets are normally done. It's usually 1 and 2 are separated and then aren't supposed to meet until at least the semifinals in a double elimination bracket. But they played. First set, what you could tell Irene and Mai had some jitters and hadn't quite adjusted to how the wind was blowing that day, and lost that one like 11-3. Second set, though, they came back a lot stronger. They did lose the set, but it was like an 11-9 loss. So way better performance and something to build on. Then they dropped down to the B side. The next match, they win pretty handily. I think it was like 15-5 or 15-6, something like that, because now it was single games to 15. Next match was the bronze medal match. And they were playing the team that actually this team did pull a set away from Caitlin and Lauren. So I knew and Irene and Mai had played both these ladies before, but just not the two of them as a tandem. But Irene and Mai went in, handled that match pretty well. I think it was 15-8, and I actually have that video up on YouTube as well if you want to check that full match, the bronze medal match. So they win that one, work their way back into the gold medal match. And then the gold medal match, wow, this was an insanely good match to watch. You want to see some really good rallies, some really good shots, some really good resets, some really good setups. This was the match to watch. There was a massive crowd around this court during this match, just because it was such an entertaining match to watch. I also have this video up on our YouTube channel. And the first match went to 12-10 for Caitlin and Lauren. So super hard fought match. And then Caitlin and Lauren managed to pull out the second set 11-7. So first time Irene and Mai have not won gold since starting to team together. They've won gold in every other tournament they've been in. So they had to settle for the silver this time. But losing in a game like that to a team of this caliber, like Caitlin's ranked number 9 in Alberta out of female players. So this was an insanely good matchup for Irene and Mai, and the fact that they did so well in this tournament pushed this team to the limits multiple times. Can't really get upset about it. Like, Irene after was a little disappointed. She's probably could have pulled away at least a set there, but nothing to be ashamed about with that. Coming home with the silver in provincials against a team that is basically on the cusp of becoming a 4.5 team. So great match. Like I said, overall, shout out to Caitlin and Lauren for an awesomely played match. And I'm looking forward to Mai and Irene possibly facing them again in the future, because that's just going to be a fun series to watch. So, all right, moving on to day 3. So day 3 was the mixed event. That's all there was for the whole day. Games were supposed to start at 7:30 a.m. Now there was a little bit of a rain delay, so I think we got underway around closer to 8:30, 9 o'clock. Irene and I were in the 3.5. We had tried to get into the 4.0, but the rules for this tournament was that one person had to be a 4.0 rating. And right now, at the time of registration, and I think right now currently me and Irene are sitting at like a 3.95. So we were the top ranked team in the according to the bracket anyways. We were the top ranked team, and then the second ranked team was on the other side of the bracket, so we knew we didn't have to play them at least until the semifinals. But this was a stacked bracket anyways. There's some really good teams in this bracket, and in this one all the games were all the A-side stuff was best 2 out of 3 because there was not enough postponement to drop down to 1 game to 15. If it was 1 game to 15, I would have been super unhappy because those games aren't fun when it's double elimination. Unless you're on the B side, because then you've lost your chance for the 2 out of 3 series. So first series or whatever, we handled pretty well. I think we won 11-8 and then like 11-4. Against some, once again, good players, but me and Irene just handled our business pretty well with that one. Our next match, we ended up playing another really good team who we'd actually played the lady before, but it's been over a year since we played her, and she has improved leaps and bounds, and her partner was really, really good too. They actually took the first set on us, and then we won the second set to force a third set, and then pulled out the third set win to move on to the quarterfinals. So quarterfinals, we played a young team. I think it was like an 18-year-old and like a 16 or 15-year-old. Very, very good players. We took the same thing. We lost the first set, and then we won the first set, lost the second set to go to a third set, and then pulled out the third set win again. This one, the win was a massive factor. If you were on the one side of the court, that ball was coming at you looking like a knuckleball. The one thing that worked semi in our favor is that when the opponent was hitting the ball to me, I was playing. So me and Irene were doing a reverse stack for this tournament. So normally when you stack for men's and women's, especially if you're both right-handed, the thing seems to be is that the guy takes the left-hand side, so his paddle hand is in the middle, and the female takes the right. Me and Irene decided to do a reverse stack. One, because I can switch to my left hand, so I can still kind of have a paddle hand in the middle, but I'm also very, very good with my backhand. And Irene has such a strong forehand that it made more sense for us to do this. Also, because most of the other teams are stacking the regular way, this lined me up straight on with the guy and lined Irene straight on up with the girl when we played. Now, we only played the stack when we were serving. When we were on defense and receiving serve, we just played regular. So there was times when I was on the left and times when Irene was on the right. But whenever we were serving, we were stacking, and Irene was on the left and I was on the right. And this worked out very, very well for us. I was able to set Irene up. She was able to set me up with dinking and leading up to finishing shots and stuff like that. But yeah, so the win being a factor. So because I'm cross from the female opponent and I'm straight on with the guy, a lot of times if I'm cross, when I was crossing, I'm dinking to the female opponent. And what was happening was she was trying to push me to the side, but what was happening is she pushed the ball too far, and then the wind would catch it. It would stay in, but it opened up the opportunity for me to hit ATPs. I think in that match alone, I probably had 4 ATP shots, and I hit all of them. And then you can tell from the inexperience of because they're young players, that the young boy wasn't ready for those. He wasn't anticipating them at all. And it wasn't until my last one that he finally moved himself over, but I just put it at his feet. He hit off his paddle and it went into net. I probably scored like 6 points just on ATPs alone in that game. I wish I could have recorded it because it would have been fun to watch. But yeah, so the kids gave us a good fight. They're going to be very, very good if they keep this up. Like I said, I think the girl's 18, 17 maybe, and then the boy is maybe like 15, 14, something like that. So very, very good players. But we won that one, moved us on to the semifinal. So we were already guaranteed a medal. So I kind of made the joke to Ernie and said, hey, we're on the podium. Pressure is off now. There's no pressure anymore. We're already on the podium. So we ended up playing a team that we had lost to in the Stony Plain tournament and the Luck of the Irish tournament in the Hartmans. So we already knew what we were in for. They, like us, like to slow the game down, and they really wanted to avoid popping the ball up to me and Irene because they had told us before that they have trouble returning our slams. Now, they're not giving themselves enough credit. They have insanely good defense. And even when we had opportunities to slam, a lot of times they were returning 1 or 2 of them before we managed to put it away. But so we got down at one point in the first set against them. We got down like 8-4, came back and won 11-9 in the first to take the first set. Second set we handled it way better. We played to the strategy we wanted to play, and won. I think it was like 11-4. So that got us into the finals. And not only into the finals, but then we were twice to beat. So the way twice to beat works in a double elimination bracket is if you've come from the A side and you're undefeated, the team coming up from the B side that plays you in the finals, they have to beat you in a best 2 out of 3 series and then also beat you in a single game to 15 to actually take the gold, because everybody else aside from you has lost once already. So, double elimination, so you have to lose twice. So we had that little mulligan in our back pocket. So after waiting for the B side to finish out, it was the Hartmans coming back up through the B side to play us again. And wind was a very big factor again. We actually had our first set, I think it was at 6-5 at one point, and then we had a quick rainstorm and got delayed by about 40 minutes. But we kind of went away from the game plan that worked for us in the semis. We weren't putting the ball where we wanted to. We were actually doing almost the opposite of what we were originally doing in that semifinal match. So they took the first set 11-9. No, sorry, they took the first set 12-10 from us. So even not playing our game, we were still at a 12-10 loss, and then we lost the second set. So we lost in straight sets 11-9. So like I said, we kept it, even not playing our game, we still kept it super, super close. So we had a quick 5-minute break before the game to 15 started, and me and Irene kind of looked at each other and we were like, why aren't we doing what we were doing in the semifinals? And we had called timeouts in the middle of the sets, and for some reason, because the whole tournament we had been talking, we'd call a timeout and we'd be talking strategy. Okay, where do we want to hit it here? Do we want to put it to this person's back? And do we want to put it to this person? Do we want to put it in the middle? And we didn't really do that. We kind of got out of that in the championship game there for some reason. But talked the strategy leading into that game to 15, and then got up. In the game to 15, you switched sides 8. We got up 8-1. Switched sides, and I think we were up to 9-1 before the Hartmans finally broke our serve and scored 3 there to get to 4. Then we got up to 14-4, and then the Hartmans broke serve again, got up to 6-14, and then we broke them, and then we finally finished it off for the 15 points for the win. So got the gold in mixed doubles, which for me personally, that was the one I wanted to win. Some people put more preference on men's doubles, women's doubles, singles. The whole reason we started playing pickleball was to have something that we could play together. If you haven't listened to the original or the first episode of this, Irene's a former volleyball player. I'm a former basketball player. We both played college level for that, but there's not really a mixed basketball thing that we can do. And when I go and play volleyball with Irene and her friends are all also former university players as well. So I'm really I'm okay for rec play, but I'm not for what you'd call tournament play. So we wanted something where both of us could play together, and and we found pickleball, and this is something we've been developing together as a team. So that's why for me the mixed division is by far the more important one for me, because I get to play with Irene, we get to win together, we get to see how we've developed together as a team. So so that meant a lot to me, winning that gold medal for that. And actually it makes it back-to-back years now that we've won gold in the mixed and provincials. Our first year playing, we won the 3.0 division. Now we've won the 3.5, so hopefully we can get our rating up enough to get to 4.0 by the end of this year. So then by next year we're playing 4.0 at least, and we can try and do a 3.5, 4 kind of repeat thing for next year. So looking forward to that. And then finally moving on to the final day. So final day, because of the postponement, women's singles were there. Single games to 15 instead of the 2 out of 3 for the A side, which a little disappointing. And then we had the men's double. So I was teaming with Richard from our club. Unfortunately, Richard has to play down in the 14 to 49 category with me, even though Richard is over 60. Very, very good player. Our first match, we played a really good team. We lost the first set, won the second set, and then lost the third set, and we just couldn't get quite enough of our shots to fall. It was a really, really good match, but just couldn't get it to fall, and so then when we dropped to the B side. We ended up playing Lester and Victor, who I know both pretty well through pickleball. And I knew going into that match that they were going to try and drive, they were going to try and speed the game up, whereas they knew playing me and Richard that we were going to try and slow the game down. Myself and Richard are very, very good slow players. We're very, very good at dinking, getting the setups that we want to then finish the shots, whereas Lester and Victor have very, very good drives, very, very quick hands for speed ups and stuff like that. So it was basically kind of polar opposite games, and whoever could implement their game the quickest was going to pull that out. And because it's 1 game to 15, once you got that momentum, it's hard to snatch it back. So we ended up losing that game. I think it was like 15-7, 15-8, something like that. It was a good match overall. But our day was done after that. And yeah, got to chat with Victor and Lester after. Both really, really good guys. They went on to end up winning the silver medal in the division, so props to them for that. Props to Richard for dropping down to the lower age category to play with me. But now that we have a few more players in our club now who go to tournaments, I know him and Daryl from our club went to a tournament previously and won in the 50 plus category. So hopefully he can hopefully that'll be a consistent partner for Richard. And then I'm still on the search for a regular partner because I think that's my second time playing with Richard. I've played twice with one other person, and then every other tournament I'm playing with someone new. So anybody watching this from like probably more than likely Edmonton, Red Deer, Calgary area, if you want to pick me up as a regular partner, I'm all ears for it. So coming up in nationals, though, I will be playing with Gilbert again. I played Western Regionals with him last year when we went to Regina, so I get to play with him again. I haven't seen him for a year, so it'll be interesting to see how much we've improved to each other. And then I'm playing with a completely different person for the second day for men's, just because Gilbert wasn't available for both days. So we'll see how that goes. Anyways, moving on to the women's singles. So single game to 15 because of the postponements and stuff. It was a late start. It didn't start until like 3:30 in the afternoon. And it was a really hot day. It was like 28, 29 degrees. And Irene just didn't have it that day. You could see the heat was getting to her. She looked mentally tired. I think she had mentally prepared herself for Thursday, and just couldn't really get herself into that mode. She had to play her partner, right off the hop, and you could see she was still kind of in doubles mentality, like she would return the ball and then crash up to the kitchen line right away. And yes, you do want to get up to the kitchen line eventually in singles, but a lot of times you got to wait 1 or 2 extra shots to make sure that you've pushed your opponent into one of the corners, because if you crash too quickly, then your opponent has the whole court to hit to make you to either have to stretch out and barely get a hand on the ball, or just put the ball out of reach for you. And Mai executed very, very well. And she put it to Irene really fairly handily. So then Irene dropped down to the B side, and she ended up playing a lady who clearly has some type of tennis background, just the way her shots were going. But same thing, she just didn't look like she was mentally in it. It was just one of those days where shots aren't falling, or you're not putting them where you need to put them to make your opponent have to move. And yeah, 2 games and Irene was done. So first time it's the first time ever she is not podiumed in singles. Our very first tournament ever, she won, and she's always podiumed in when she's played women's singles. So she's taking this as a bit of a wake up call. We're going to be this week and a little bit leading up to nationals, we're going to be doing a lot of singles drills, just so that we can work on that aside from our usual drills for our double stuff. And obviously she was mad with herself for the first little bit after the day was over, but now she's looking at it as like, no, this is a good learning experience for her. She knows she needs to put in a little bit more time for her singles game, especially with all the tennis players, squash players starting to convert over into pickleball, it's a lot easier for them to start off in singles because that's what they're used to playing. So the singles is where you're going to get caught really, really quickly if you don't keep working on your skills. So that was the lesson Irene took from that. And yeah, so we finished the weekend. So Irene and I get the silver in women's doubles. Me and Irene get the gold in our mixed doubles. So finished off the tournament with 2 medals for Irene, 1 for me, a gold, and then so gold and silver for Irene. And yeah, so pretty successful weekend. I would have loved to have made it to the podium, at least in my singles, just because I was just the 1 spot off, and would have liked to at least been able to push with Richard a little bit further in the men's, but it happens. And all these categories were really, really deep. This tournament had, I think it was like 541 people playing in it. So our divisions for like mixed were like 18 teams. The me and Richard's men's was like 16 teams. So massive, massive brackets. So really good turnout. But moving on to the overall review for the tournament. So Mother Nature played a big factor, causing, of course, massive delays, pretty much destroying almost all the Thursday games, and a couple postponements to make games run really late on the Friday and some of the Saturday games. But every time we go to Red Deer, it's always very, very well run. Few of the brackets looked kind of hinky with how the players were placed in certain spots, but other than that, really, really well run. Now that I've played there 3 different tournaments now, the wind is starting to become a factor. I was talking to a few, especially some of the local players there. I know they are trying to figure out how they can get the courts covered because they have a beautiful facility with the 20 courts there. It's a really wide facility though. Like if you were to compare it to say like the Medicine Hat one, the Red Deer one has, so it's got 1 row, then it has a row in the middle, and then it has a 3rd row going on, but it's wide. Whereas like if you take Medicine Hat, it's got 1 row, 2 rows, and then but it's just longer, so there's only 2 courts like across each other, so it's not as wide across. So I think because of how wide the Red Deer one is, it makes it easier even with the wind barriers on the fences for the wind to kind of dip over the fence and come in and have a big impact on the game. Like if you watch some of the footage on the Pickleball Alberta website, so even some of the, especially like some of the higher level games, so like the Open and stuff like that, you can see the wind really, really affecting some of how some of these higher level players had to play the ball. Like they're missing shots that they don't normally miss and stuff like that because of how much the wind was playing a factor. And I know it's an outdoor sport and stuff like that, and you have to deal with the elements, but after playing in like say somewhere like Vernon where you have outdoor courts but in a covered area, I think now that Red Deer has had at least 3 or 4 very, very successful tournaments where you're bringing in 500 plus athletes, I think they could probably go to the city and at least get the city to help with a little bit of some type of overhead coverage to so that way you don't have to worry about rain delays as much or the wind issues and things like that. And like if they manage to pull that off and get that area covered, that's probably going to be the premier place to play in Alberta. But yeah, so aside from the wind being a major factor, postponing games, making things run really, really late, other than that, every single event was reffed. So you never had to worry about that stuff. We have an amazing amount of refs in Alberta and in a bunch in BC that drove up to help ref and stuff like that. Red Deer always puts on a very, very good tournament, and the brackets themselves they were so well stacked that even like you're watching the 3.0 games. Super competitive. There wasn't a lot of like there might have been some blowouts at the very beginning of the bracket, but once you got into the final games or the final like quarterfinals where you're down to like the top 4, 5, 6 teams, all the games were tight. I don't know how many games went to 3 sets, or even where this team coming up from the B side forced the game into like the game to 15. very lots and lots of exciting games to watch. Got to reconnect with a bunch of people we hadn't seen in a bit, or just reconnect with players that we see at multiple tournaments. And the thing I liked is there was a bunch of them there that when me and Irene were in our gold medal game, players from other clubs and stuff cheering us on because we've gotten to know them decently well, or just known them from tournaments, playing against them or playing with them. So really great community building. Really enjoyed that. The only other little thing I would have said is that I didn't think that they had the one court where games were being live streamed on the YouTube channel for for Pickleball Alberta, and I noticed, and I don't know if it's just because of how the computer was doing stuff for pickleball practice, they were just saying, "Okay, this court's open, we're just sending a match there." But I thought they probably could have done a better job of getting a few more gold medal games, or at least bronze medal games, onto that championship court. That'd be my only little tweak with that for the tournament. Other than that, you had some great. They had food trucks there, different food trucks there every day. You had some different sponsors who sold stuff. I know, like the Pickleball Warehouse or Superstore, Pickleball Superstore was there. Poach was there. With paddles and stuff and shoes and stuff that you could purchase, all that type of stuff. Bunch of different 50-50 draws, raffles, and things like that. So made it a very good good event. And then the nice thing about Red Deer as a location is we had the kids with us, and there was lots of stuff to go do and see. If you have some younger kids, like there's Sylvan Lake, which is about 20 minutes away. You have the ski hill, which has like the little roller coaster thing and like the tube slides and stuff like that. There's a man-made tube slide as well that you can go ride on and stuff. So our kids were great sports, watching mom and dad beat themselves up for a couple of days, and then going and enjoying some of the stuff around that the city of Red Deer has to offer. So overall, great tournaments. Had lots of fun. Would have loved to do a little bit better in my singles and a little bit better in my men's doubles, and I know Irene would have loved to do better in her singles, but something for us to work on and focus on. And we got nationals coming up in like a week and a half here, and we got 5 days worth of games for that in Regina. So long 12-hour drive, but looking forward to it, and we'll get to see some of the really good players there as well. I know a bunch of the really good players from Ontario are coming over for that, so hopefully we'll stick around after some of our games are done and watch some of those matches. All right, one more thing, the ball. So as it stands right now, the Franklin 40X ball is the official ball of Pickleball Canada, or at least for outdoor games. Franklin's the major sponsor. For this tournament, they were using the Onyx Durafast outdoor ball. Now, I don't know if Onyx sponsored this tournament or what, but I know Onyx sponsors the CNPL. But the CNPL is outdoor courts, but they're inside and they're covered, so wind's not a factor here. I know with the Onyx ball, it's supposed to be like a better bounce or whatever, but the ball's more expensive. It also breaks a lot easier. This is one of the first tournaments I've been to where we've actually gotten the ref to switch out the ball because the ball is broken, and it happened in multiple matches for us. But the biggest thing with this is every other tournament we've been to this year that's outdoor, it's been the Franklin ball. I find the Franklin ball is a little bit has the holes are a little bit smaller. The ball feels a little bit more heavier, so the ball doesn't get picked up by or moved as much by the wind. For this tournament, because we were using the Onyx ball, you could see a lot of players having an issue getting used to it. The Onyx ball, I found, as soon as the wind caught it, it just sailed. I don't know how many shots I saw go into the back of the fence or back of the court where normally that particular player, whether it's me or Irene or someone else we were watching, just the wind would catch that ball and it would just sail. So I found with the wind being a factor in Red Deer, that the ball took a bit to get used to. Like, yeah, by the time we were in our mixed doubles and stuff like that, we were pretty much used to the ball. But for those first couple of days, it took a bit, and you can see some players venting their frustrations about it. But yeah, as far as it goes, like the balls for me aren't as big of a deal, but I was noticing it being commented a lot more this tournament. I don't have a deal with either of these, Franklin or Onyx, either way, but when one particular brand of ball is the sponsor of Pickleball Canada and is being used in pretty much every other tournament, it does throw players off switching to another one right away when there is a little bit of a significant difference between the two balls. Like when we go to nationals now, it is the Franklin 40X that we're using, and it's going to be on, depending on which court you're playing on, because in Regina, it's the Queen City Pickleball Hub, which is outdoor courts that are covered, or you're going to be playing in the Trade Center. Either way, you're using the same ball. Now, we'll get into that when we do the podcast for the Nationals, but when you're playing in the Trade Center, it's concrete flooring, so an outdoor ball tends to skip on those a lot. Like I know when we played Western Regionals last year, they were using a indoor-outdoor hybrid ball. But nonetheless, going back to the tournament itself for Red Deer, yeah, so I noticed that the Onyx one does sail a little bit more once the wind catches it. And during the mixed play, especially on Saturday, where the wind was a decent bit of a factor, like we really had to adjust depending on what side of the court you were on. And because the wind was catching the ball a lot more, you really had to be careful of how you read it. Now, I'm not saying the wind would have still not had an effect on the Franklin balls, but just from playing with both, if you're playing on an outdoor court, but that's covered, so like for example, when we played in Vernon for the CNPL tryouts, the Onyx ball is very, very good. It works very, very well. If you're playing in a non-covered court where wind can possibly affect her, I think I would prefer the Franklin balls, just because they're a little bit heavier, and the wind doesn't bother them as much. Both balls give you a decent bounce. The Franklins are also a lot more durable. And if you're looking to buy balls for yourself, they're a lot cheaper as well. But like I said, like we use the Onyx ones for our indoor play here in Peace River for our club, because we're mostly a winter club and we play indoors at a recreational center. So we're playing on like gym floors. So the Onyx indoor ball is very, very good on those. They do tend to break a decent amount, like our club goes through a fair amount of them, but they're a very, very effective ball and play very, very well. So I just figured I'd throw that in, that because there's a lot of, like I said, a lot of players commenting on it and saying, oh yeah, like the next tournament I go to, it's going to be back to the Franklin. So it was just weird using that ball, particularly for this one tournament. All right, so that pretty much does it for this podcast, guys. Thanks for watching. If you want to get in contact with me, you can hit me up on all the socials at Gorms1307, or you can leave a comment in the comment section on YouTube here at AG Squared Pickleball. Week and a half, we got National, so there will be a podcast after that one to go over that. And then the weekend after that is the CMPL Western Split in Edmonton. So I'm hoping I can get some time off to go watch that in person. It is a 5-hour drive for me, 10-hour round trip. So depending on work, I might be able to go see that in person. If not, I'll be watching it on the YouTube stream. So looking forward to that, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.
Left hand. Look at that. What a way to end it, with an overhead smash. And not just an overhead smash, but a jumping overhead smash by Irene. So Irene and Andrew from Peace River, Alberta, gold medalists.